All right, let's be honest for a second. Photography workshops, are they worth the money, or are they really just an expensive field trip with your camera? I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and honestly, I think it depends on where you are in your photography journey. So to start off with, we're going to break it down into photographers of three different levels. We'll talk about beginners who are maybe struggling to even understand manual mode, amateurs who have a pretty good grasp of the manual mode, some basic post-processing skills maybe, and then we'll talk about advanced photographers, people that have a solid portfolio and maybe a website, and maybe they sell a few prints, but they're not a full-time pro. If you're just starting out, like you just bought your first camera and you're still figuring out what an exposure triangle is, and aperture and shutter speed and ISO, then a workshop can be a game changer. Instead of spending weeks or months watching just random YouTube videos or reading manuals and books, you get hands-on help right there in the moment. A good instructor can give you instant feedback, provide that critical connection between what your camera's doing and what you want it to do, and what your vision is for your image, and boost your confidence in a way that no YouTube video can. Now, a downside that you have to be careful of if you are a beginner is if you go in a workshop that moves too fast, you could get left behind. This can easily happen if the workshop is too large, so that instructor to student ratio is too big. The instructor doesn't want to spend any time with the students. They would rather do their own photos, and you're just kind of, along for the ride, so not a lot of teaching happens. Now, if you're a little bit past that beginner stage and you got a really good grasp of the exposure triangle and you're really comfortable shooting in manual mode, this is where you can really learn some specialized skills such as focus stacking, bracketing your images, long exposure photography, and really push you creatively to make better photographs. And one of the things I really enjoy about workshops is the community, and that is the chance to just get together with a like-minded group of people that are as nerdy about photography as you are. And that energy can be really, really inspiring. And if it's a travel workshop where you've been going to some place that you've never been before, then it's just a win-win, win-win scenario, because you're going to come away with some amazing images of some epic locations. But pretty much the only downside I can think of for the people that fall into that camp is possibly the cost or the time. And workshops can be expensive depending on where you're going, the size of the group, who's instructing, and the amount of time that you have to invest in a workshop can be anywhere from just a few days to over a week. So let's say you're an advanced photographer, maybe semi-pro, you're making a little bit of money, you've got a great portfolio, then workshops I think can still be beneficial, but there's some things to think about. The big thing is it's about the experience. It's about getting out with other creatives. You can see how another pro might approach a scene and maybe get some business insights or portfolio reviews. And here's a big one. If you're burnout or a little bit just tired and you need to reignite that creative spark, going on a workshop is a surefire way to make that happen. But here's the thing. Make sure you pick a workshop so you're not just repeating stuff that you already know. Be extremely selective about the workshop that you pick so that you can get that spark reignited and come away with some new images for your portfolio. So advanced photographers need to be really picky. Look for master classes or workshops that go beyond the ordinary and the technical side and give you something unique. No matter if you're a beginner, an amateur, or advanced, I think the most important thing to look at is how big is the workshop? How many people are going? I have been taking workshops and leading workshops for many, many years. And some of the early workshops, when I first started going on workshops, the student or the participant to the instructor ratio was ridiculous. So the price seemed really attractive, but it was me and 10 other photographers and one instructor. Now it's easy to get lost in the crowd with that many people and only one person doing any of the teaching. It's hard to hear, it's hard to all get in a good spot. It produces a lot of problems. Now that can be overcome if they have more than one instructor. So I've done workshops where it's been like maybe 8 to 10 people and I was one of 2 instructors. And with that kind of a ratio, it works a lot better because you're making sure that everybody gets a good amount of time and they're all coming away with good images. Even on a workshop with 2 instructors and let's say 10 people, you're talking about 12 tripods, all in a very small area that you're trying to come away with an image. You can compound that with the area maybe being in a very popular location. Maybe it's a waterfall or a overlook or a spot on the trail. And usually those areas are just not that big. And when you try to put 10 or 11 people in that spot, all with tripods, you become, in my opinion, like a blockade to other people, other tourists, other people that want to see what you're seeing. And you're just kind of taking over the whole area. And that, to me, is not fun. It's stressful, not only for the instructors, but for the participants, because they're trying to see, it's crowded and there's people bumping into you and people with selfie sticks and people with phones. That's why I recommend you go with a smaller workshop. Smaller workshops are advantageous for numerous reasons. Number one, you're going to have plenty of time with your instructor. Whoever's leading the workshop, you're going to have a ton of time because you're not going to be competing with 6 or 7 or 8 other people. You're also going to have plenty of space, no matter where you go, to set up and get a shot. And you're not going to be in, it's not going to be like a busload of people that have just been spilled out onto the sidewalk and trying to all set up and take a photograph. Everything becomes easier in a smaller workshop. Parking is easier. Getting to where you want to go is easier. Setting up is easier. Reviewing your images, having a post-processing session, answering questions, getting your questions answered, sharing images, finding a place to eat, all enjoying time off time at a restaurant is all easier because it's not 12 people, it's only a few. One of the other things I mentioned was that could be a barrier is how many days is the workshop. So workshops can go from like 3 days, a weekend, all the way up to well over a week for an international destination. I'll give you the pros and cons. For a short workshop, let's say Friday through Sunday, the pros, number one, you don't have to take much time off work, if any. Number two, you don't have to take any vacation or spend, if you've got a family vacation planned for the summer, when the kids get out of school, you're not burning up those vacation days doing a workshop. It's only 3 days over a weekend. That makes it really, really convenient. Now, the downside to those short workshops is not a lot of shooting time. You've only got a handful, two sunrises, 2 sunsets, something like that. And if the weather doesn't cooperate, in which you have no control over, then you might not come away with as good of an image as if you were able to do a longer workshop that's say 4 or 5 days that gave you 10 sunsets and 10 sunrises to deal with in order to come away with something really, really good. So to kind of wrap up, are photography workshops worth it? For beginners, they're usually the fastest way to level up your photography game. For amateurs, they're amazing for skill building and inspiration. And for advanced photographers, well, it depends. but sometimes the connections and experiences are just as important as the technical lessons. But I'd like to know what you think. Have you ever taken a photography workshop? Was it worth it for you or not so much? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.